green grass in exchange for drought-friendly yards.
If I wanted to have a nice yard, I needed to xeriscape.
And dolphin tracking with the popular marine mammal can teach us about the health of our oceans.
It's really important to understand their health and how the environment's impacting them.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Another bomb cyclone is hitting California today, bringing rain, snow, and powerful winds. Northern and Central California are feeling the brunt of the storm. Governor Gavin Newsom has requested a presidential major disaster declaration. Now, this was the scene yesterday. We're talking near Lake Tahoe. Up to 5 feet could fall in the highest elevations. A winter storm warning is in effect for the region until later today. The storm is also dropping heavy rains, which in turn is causing flooding, leading to several problems. As Anna Montemore explains, it's delaying some critical public works projects.
Rainstorm after rainstorm here in the North State, which is impacting everyone, including Reading Public Works projects and construction plans. When it comes to this recent intense weather, it really does impact the amount of time it takes to complete projects around town.
The weather impacts, like for roadway repairs, of course, because we have to use what we call a cold mix during the rainy season, because we can't get a hot mix this time of year to make a permanent patch on the road. So it affects how we can do a permanent patch. It affects how we can do our sidewalk repairs. Of course, you can't pour concrete when it's raining. So weather affects us a lot when it comes to priority maintenance, like our roads and our sidewalks. So
California Office of Emergency Services says that you should know whether your home is in a flood zone and to evacuate immediately if advised to do so. Overall, staying patient and prepared during this long winter will help ensure your safety. Public Works advises people to call in and report any hazards seen on the roadways and says they do their best to respond to everyone.
And now to Utah, where they are dealing with the aftermath of 2 avalanches in 2 days. One slide left a 38-year-old man dead, buried under 22 feet of snow. He deployed those avalanche airbags, but sadly, there was just too much snow. The other involved a complicated rescue after 2 men were buried on a snowcat. Meanwhile, another snowmobiler is grateful to be alive after setting off an avalanche by accident last week. Brian Schnee caught up with him to learn more about what happened.
Third climb up was me, and I ended up causing a huge avy. I triggered one, and luckily it broke from below me. And, the worst part about that was not only was I in it, but I put a lot of people in danger that were at the bottom of the hill.
Watching your GoPro video back, at what point did you realize you triggered it?
So a lot of people will say that, on a big avalanche like that, you can typically hear it, but I was still on the throttle so much that I didn't hear a thing. Didn't see the crack as I was going over it. And right when I turned downhill, I look ahead of me and all I can see is rolling trees and debris below me. And I realized, oh crap, this is huge. I need to get my crap together right now. Right when I made that drop, as quick as I could, I got the avy bag off, luckily, right as I was entering the debris, and I just got my hand on the handlebars in time to hang on to that sled and try and ride it out.
Would you say you got lucky? This wasn't a worse outcome?
I was extremely lucky. If I would have got bucked off, which I almost did on that first entry point coming down into the avalanche, I would have been buried for sure.
And now to Mississippi, where more volunteers are showing up to help those devastated by last week's deadly tornado. As Ashley shows us, surrounding states are sending police to help bring supplies and food to those who need it most.
It's been an exhausting experience up here. It's definitely, it takes a lot out of you.
Physically and emotionally. Corporal Lonnie Parsons and others with Mobile County SO hopped in their food truck Monday morning, taking food and supplies to the folks in Amory, Mississippi, one of the hardest hit areas during the deadly storms Friday night.
In terms of this storm, no one could have prepared themselves. So it was it was a real somber experience when you're driving in and you see just huge trees uprooted.
Parsons and his team hoping to provide some relief, either with gloves and chainsaws or with a warm meal, especially those in law enforcement putting in countless hours to help the community.
And if we can provide that hot meal and put a smile on their face at the same time, I think that means more to them than what they really realize, because that keeps that motivation going.
And it's human nature to want to help out. So Parsons says the victims of this tornado need plastic totes and bins.
Can we get some plastic totes to help these people, gather their dreams and gather their items and put them back together so they feel like they have something?
They'll be in Amory until at least Friday.
And staying in Mississippi, a twister left a long scar as it ravaged the state Friday night. Mobile meteorologist Alan Seals shows us what happened.
Notice the trees. They're not twisted, even though tornadoes are nicknamed twisters. The trees are all blown in the direction of the circulation of the tornado. Now, that's Carroll County. You see it highlighted on this map that shows the tracks of right now what is two different tornadoes. But one track, the one from the EF4 tornadoes, that was nearly 60 miles long. The one that moved through Carroll County, that track was 30 miles. And you could tell that for most of the life, these tornadoes were ranked EF1, EF2, sometimes EF3. But in Rolling Fork, it was an EF4 at that time. Now notice in Montgomery County, the end of that track, a high-resolution satellite from the USGS Landsat satellite. And what you see there is what you saw in the video. You see what's known as a tornado scar, where the tornado literally takes the leaves off of trees, leaving them bare. And then as the trees die, they turn brown. And that actually shows up on satellite from some of the more intense, long-lasting tornadoes, like the one that moved through Carroll County. I'm meteorologist Alan Seals.
And unfortunately, more severe weather is expected on Friday. This map right here shows you the highest risk in orange, stretching from Iowa and Illinois all the way to Mississippi. But a large section of the nation's midsection needs to be on alert come Friday. Drought can kill lawns and plants. On the other hand, many communities will also issue restrictions, making it impossible to even water your lawn. That's why many people in Texas are now swapping green for brown. San Antonio meteorologist Joe DiCarlo reports that xeriscaping is growing in popularity.
Xeriscaping is a process of landscaping or gardening that reduces the need for irrigations, such as these 2 yards here. Many homeowners, as we continue to deal with the drought conditions across Texas, are opting for this type of landscaping to reduce money and also making sure their yards stay looking good throughout anything Texas weather throws its way.
So I had dirt and mud on that side and burnt up weeds on this side. So it kind of was a no-brainer for me. If I wanted to have a nice yard, I needed to xeriscape.
Jamie Elliott is a homeowner in North San Antonio. She, along with her neighbor Maria, decided that xeriscaping their yards was the best option for them.
You just can't water enough with as much sun as I get to keep healthy grass.
So it was, like I said, half grass and a lot of weeds. So it wasn't a very pretty yard.
Jamie and Maria ripped out their grass, picked out decomposed granite and rocks from a supply company, and got to work. With their yards now xeriscaped, they are relieved at how little upkeep they have to do from now on. Finding beautiful plants that are drought tolerant are the key to a beautiful looking, low maintenance yard.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a big expense. One thing that's very popular are these fabric bags. These are called smart pots, and it's basically a material, and it lasts. I've had some of these smart pots here at the nursery for 15 years, and they last basically forever.
Well, today's the last Wednesday in March, meaning it's Manatee Appreciation Day. Today, we bring awareness to these sea giants, also known as sea cows, because they spend at least 8 hours a day grazing on sea grass. They have no natural enemies, but are a threatened species because of pollution, climate change, and also hunting. In Florida, it is illegal to harass, disrupt, or even play with manatees. A fun fact here, early explorers and sailors thought manatees were mermaids. And coming up from the National Weather Desk, we'll head to South Carolina to find out why dolphin tracking is so important for understanding the health of our oceans. Plus, you may have heard the term 100-year flood, but what does it mean? We'll talk to an expert to get the answer.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. Look at the Northeast. We have a nice day on tap for today in the Northeast. Temps will be in the 50s. A few spots in northern New England will be in the 40s. Look for a lot of sunshine today. Winds will not be much of an issue. That front right there means business, though. That's an Arctic cold front. It moves through late tonight into early tomorrow morning. This is 11 o'clock tonight. There'll be a round of snow showers and squalls, especially in northern New England. That will weaken as it approaches the coast with probably rain showers there. It's bright, cooler, and windy on Thursday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Some 30s and 40s to begin. Any showers across Virginia, lower Delmarva, extreme southern Maryland out by sunrise. And it looks like actually a pretty nice afternoon. High temperatures getting well into the 50s to about 60 degrees, which is near seasonable for this time of year. So we're going to call it nice. Another cold front heading on in later Wednesday night into Thursday. Not much with it, but cooler air behind it. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Temperatures in the 60s from Nashville down through Atlanta, 70 degrees in Mobile as well as Jacksonville. Back in the 80s for Tampa and West Palm as a cold front continues to push through down in South Florida. A few possible showers there. A little more sunshine through the afternoon, but we have a little weather maker that's moving across parts of the Gulf states. But we should be clearing out as we go through the afternoon and evening as we get into Wednesday night.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Major flooding events are often classified as 100-year floods, but that doesn't mean you won't see it for another 100 years. Emily Gracie recently spoke to a flood expert with NOAA about where this classification actually came from and if it works in our ever-changing climate.
The most common misperception of that is that that the 100-year will only occur once a century, and that isn't true. I mean, there's a small probability that an intense event could occur every year, and that's the point, and that's kind of why agencies like FEMA and I work for NOAA, we try to refer to it now as in a percent instead, and which would be the 1%, which means in every given year there's a 1% chance you could experience that level or intensity. And obviously, so where more population lives, you have a higher risk.
Okay, so geographic location makes a difference. Say what's going on in California right now, what a 100-year flood looks like there may be different than what a 100-year flood may look like on the East Coast somewhere?
So it's a probability of an event happening. Say all these rain events they've had in California, all the atmospheric rivers, they're on like their 12th atmospheric river incident this year. The probability of that happening, but also what's in harm's way. And that combination gives you the risk.
How do you adjust the numbers as time is going on and we're constantly seeing new information? Because I'm guessing a 100-year flood could happen much more frequently in the past decade than perhaps 100 years ago or 200 years ago with rising sea levels.
How we come up with the 1% right now is even sometimes problematic because we are relying on historical data. It all comes down to the period of record. How long was that gauge they're collecting data? In some cases, we only have 30 years, maybe if you're really lucky, 50 to 70 years of data. As a geologist, you always say, well, the past is the key to the future, right? We know what happened in the past. That's going to tell us what's happening now. But in this case, the past is not the key to the future because we know that things are changing. And so to take that into account, we need to start, when we do flood risk mapping and things, we need to take account what's the future floodplain going to look like by putting in some of these scenarios of higher water levels.
There are nearly 300 dolphins living in the waters off Charleston, South Carolina. Locating and tracking them not only helps the population stay healthy, but also the ocean. Meteorologist Kirsten Clark shows us how.
The National Marine Mammal Foundation uses different methods to track dolphins. Their primary way is through photo ID, which is when they identify individual dolphins through their unique markings.
And for dolphins, we look at their dorsal fins. That's because over time, each dolphin acquires markings on the trailing edge of its fin, and then we can use that pattern of markings like a fingerprint to identify that individual dolphin and distinguish it from others.
They also use special equipment to locate and track dolphins.
So this is a camera that we would use during a photo ID survey. So you can tell it's really big and it's really heavy so that we can get some really high quality photos of the dorsal fins. And it's got a super long lens on it, so we don't have to get too close, and we can zoom in and get a nice profile picture of each dolphin.
They also use GPS units and satellite tags to find out when and where the dolphins were. They'll fill out a data sheet to record notes on their behavior, group size, and if there were any calves. That information then goes into their customized database called FinBase. Then they can start answering questions about the dolphin population as a whole.
We'll ask questions like how many dolphins are living in the area, how do they use different habitats, and then ultimately, are there any threats that they might be exposed to?
Dolphins can be indicators of what's happening in our ecosystems, which is why it's important to collect this data and learn what's happening in our oceans.
And so when you consider how closely dolphins live to human populations and that we share many of the same waterways and eat some of the same fish species, it's really important to understand their health and how the environment's impacting them.
You know, it's not just dolphins that can provide insight into the health of ecosystems. Eelgrass is critically important marine habitat off the Maine coastline. It's rapidly declining, cut in half in just 4 years. Meteorologist Ryan Munn explains why the loss of eelgrass could prove devastating.
If we continue to lose eelgrass at this rate, there could be some really serious negative impacts beyond which what we're already seeing probably.
Mike Doan, a staff scientist at Friends of Casco Bay, is concerned about the recent loss of eelgrass in the bay.
Eelgrass is a true flowering perennial, a true plant, not a seaweed. It's found just offshore, just below low tide, out to about 20 feet of water.
A 2022 report conducted by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection shows some staggering results.
They found that the amount of eelgrass in Casco Bay has been reduced by over half, by 54%, since the last time they mapped the eelgrass back in 2018.
The reduction in eelgrass creates concern for the living species in these waters.
To lose over half of your bed in just over 4 years is something I'm concerned with. And it does mean that we're losing important habitat for young marine organisms.
It could impact one of Maine's largest industries, too.
You're worried about the effect that'll have on lobster populations, on other populations that really require that important eelgrass as habitat.
Scientists have some ideas as to why this is happening.
Too much nutrients, too much nitrogen in the water stimulates the growth of things like algae, phytoplankton. Too much of that can cloud the water and make it hard for eelgrass to survive.
Doan says climate change and the recent warming of Casco Bay are reasons why there's now less eelgrass.
You can increase the amount of eelgrass in the bay by bringing it in from somewhere else. And if we can do that with higher heat-tolerant plants, that might be a way to go.
And this week, we've been showing you different ways to see something fascinating in the skies. Meteorologist Marshall McPeak has more on the planetary alignment.
We have the parade of planets. It's not just this week. You'll be able to see that through at least the next several weeks, right around sunset. It's a fascinating, almost conjunction of a couple of planets, plus a lineup of several others. So what you're looking for right around sunset and just beyond, near the horizon, you'll find Jupiter and Mercury. Now, they're really low on the horizon, so even if there are some low trees in the distance, they might get in your way. But those will be the ones closest to the bottom. Then you've got the bright evening star Venus, and just a little bit above that is Uranus. But it's really hard to see without a telescope. You might be able to get a glimpse of it with binoculars, but a telescope is better. And then a little bit farther up is where you get Mars. And it's pretty easy to see because it's got that orange-red glow to it. The moon, not always a great opportunity to use that as a way to find the planets because it moves pretty regularly. But these planets should be in place for at least the next several weeks. And on a clear evening, you may be able to see some of those. So the parade of planets, worth getting out right around sunset and have a look because they don't line up this way very often.
And as we head to break, a look at Florida mangroves from above.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest for the day today. Things are kind of quiet for most of us. Might see a few showers, snow showers and light rain showers kind of sweeping their way across the Great Lakes later. As we continue into the day tomorrow, got a few more showers starting to develop out across the far northern parts of the Midwest. Sunshine across a lot of the South. And then Friday is going to be active for us. We've got severe weather expected, including some snow to the north, but severe weather right in the central part of the Midwest Friday.
Good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Succi. Look at our forecast today across the region and starting off with a bit of cloudiness across a chunk of Texas and Louisiana. Otherwise, it is a chilly start. Oklahoma into Arkansas this morning. The afternoon stays in the 60s and 70s. Then you get some cloudiness across half of Texas, maybe a sprinkle or shower from those clouds. A very low-end severe weather risk Thursday across portions of central Oklahoma. Otherwise, we'll see temperatures in the 70s across the region.
Well, hi there and happy Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Continuing to warm up as we head toward the end of March here out west. We'll see a 81-degree afternoon out of Phoenix, which sounds inviting. Still cleaning up from that big weather maker in California. The rain continues to push through the Central Valley on its way into LA and San Diego for some gusty and soggy weather there today, and still some lingering snow outside of Salt Lake City in the Wasatch. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Snow rollers can form in spaces with the right mix of snow, moisture, and wind, but this photo sent to our Portland, Maine station appears to show the snow retreating from the windshield and melting into this roll. Now to Washington, D.C., where the National Park Service says the cherry blossoms are starting to slowly shed petals, so we'll cherish and enjoy this view from the tidal basin.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Tornadoes last week upended lives, and there is more severe weather in the forecast. Here's meteorologist Natalie Walters on what you should do to help stay safe in severe weather.
So severe weather season is upon us, and I thought this would be a good time to remind everyone of where to go and what to do if there is a tornado warning issued for your area. And really all you need to remember to do is to duck, D-U-C-K. So first you'll want to go down to the lowest level of your home and stay away from windows. Next, you'll want to get under something like a staircase or a heavy table. You'll also want to cover your head. You could even use helmets. And most importantly, you want to keep in that shelter until the storm has completely passed.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we celebrate baseball's opening day, and we'll have the weather reports for some of the biggest games. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.